G'day guys, welcome to LHL Chat. We're here with Anita and Jen and Michael and Michele, of course. And we're just going to have a little chat and see where we're at and catch up. It's been a crazy year. So how are you guys doing?
We're doing well. It has indeed been a crazy year.
Yeah.
How exciting. And you guys are just absolute miracle makers, and we're so grateful. So the aid post is scheduled for Sanananda village. So Sanananda is on the northern beaches of Oro province's north coast. It's actually where the Japanese fleet landed during World War II. And there were some very, very heavy battles across Buna, Gona and Sanananda in those actual villages during the Japanese retreat after the Kokoda campaign. So after the Australians had pushed the Australians back to Kokoda, it's then about a 70-kilometre road between Kokoda village and the north coast. And that's where the Japanese forces dug in and where some very, very heavy fighting happened around those months of January, February of 1943. So these days, Sanananda is a beautiful little rural coastal village. There's about 220 homes in Sanananda, so the population of around about 1,500 people. And we have been supporting our health worker there, whose name is Dick Larry, to run a little bush aid post. And we always like to start by making sure that we've got community contribution and support before we go in and invest in some infrastructure. And we've got that track record in Sanananda. Dick Larry's been really committed to that post, which has been fantastic. The community have been involved in building little makeshift building for the operations of the aid post and for the staff house for Dick Larry and his family to live in. But it's very run down and it's very basic. So, you know, it's all made out of bush materials. There's not proper shelving. We've been able to put a small solar system on it, but in terms of, you know, investing in things like vaccine fridges that the aid post will desperately need with the vaccine rollout for COVID-19, the current setup is just not appropriate. So we're really, really thrilled to be able to work with you guys to put a permanent building in there. That population on the northern beaches is growing quite significantly. We also run another aid post, a village down in Buna, where you guys will be supporting the school. So they've got quite a large health centre there, and we've got 4 community health workers who run that operation. But Buna Health Centre takes care of a catchment of about 12 surrounding communities. So before we were able to start operations in Sanananda, the people of Sanananda would have to walk for 2 hours across to Buna, and there'd often be very long waits, difficult to get treatment. And, you know, that's a difficult walk if you're a mother who's just gone into a complicated labour. So this is about bringing those critical health services to where they're needed.
Well, that's one of the things I think that's so fantastic about this partnership is that you guys have found a way to work with the community there, and we can come in and make sure that, you know, whatever funds we do raise, they're used most effectively and efficiently within that community. So it's really great to hear that, you know, we're going to be able to help. Is it Dick Larry? Is that right?
Larry, yeah.
Yeah.
What a cracker of a name, hey?
Yeah. But he's got a heart of gold. Yeah, so it's fantastic that we're going to be able to help you guys and help Dick, you know, like actually make it a proper establishment, and, you know, to make it a solid building in which the community of Sanananda can go there and not have to do the 2-hour walk or whatnot. I mean,
there's something really power in, you know, professionalizing a workspace for someone like Dick Larry. You know, he has done 2.5 years of tertiary training. That's what you need to do in order to become what's called a community health worker in Papua New Guinea. We call them our bush doctors, our rural GPs. That's sort of the role that they serve. They are the first line of defence for village health. They are whom everybody goes to, whether, you know, it's a machete wound, someone's cut themselves when they've been chopping down trees for firewoods, or whether it's a new mum who's just had a baby or needs to deliver a baby, or childhood immunisations. These guys are the first point of call. There is then a referral system in the province. There's a provincial hospital called Popondetta General Hospital. That from Sanananda, you know, have to get a series of PMVs, public motor vehicles, in order to make your way to that hospital. But we work very closely with Popondetta General and also with the Provincial Department of Health there. But, you know, back to that point around professionalising this for Dick Larry and giving him that space so that he can deliver high quality primary health care for these very remote communities, it's going to change the game for him.
Yeah, and I think it's super important to be empowering the local community around that area as well, and giving them that opportunity to do it, instead of, you know, bringing someone else in and just going, okay, we're going to do this and do that, but having the locals run it, and, you know, and they have that trust in Dick to be able to do all that stuff. So, you know, that work that you guys have already done, we're so proud to be able to kind of, you know, piggyback on that and help you guys with whatever we can do.
So it sounds like that he's qualified and he can give the vaccine once you get the vaccine, correct? So the locals really trust him. So that might be a way to get those communities and those people that utilize him to actually get vaccinated. Am I right?
Look, absolutely. And so we've already started the work through this network of health workers, of which Dick Larry is one of them, around the community education and the public health education that's needed before we can just start coming in and putting jabs into arms. Yeah. We know that there's major vaccine hesitancy across Papua New Guinea. PNG has never in history had to roll out an adult vaccination program. So Papua New Guineans are very used to their children being vaccinated, and they're used to working with, as you say, well-trusted local community health workers. They know that they need to take their babies, and then when they're 4, to go and get the suite of injections to give them the protection that they need. But PNG's never had to do that for adults. So it's a whole new situation that we're dealing with, and having to convince adults that there is this new disease. It's only 18 months old. We're still learning as we go, but you need to take this seriously, and this is a way that you can protect not just yourself, but your elderly relatives, your entire community, your children, etc. So Dick Larry and our team of health workers are absolutely critical just in providing that education and awareness before we even get to the stage of vaccine rollout. But it is on its way. Vaccines have arrived in Oro province. We are getting all our health facilities set up with solar vaccine fridges and with the vaccine carriers, so that the health workers can go out on patrol. But once we have a permanent building in order to put that infrastructure in, it will just make a world of difference.
So the people watching, I think we have a picture of Dick actually helping a young boy on our website. Is that correct? So if they're watching, they can put a face with a name. I just want to make sure that they know that they can know who we're talking about. What language do they speak in that area?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I'll have to come back to you on that.
Okay.
I should know. I'll have to come back to you. It'll be their local vernacular, which the name escapes me at the moment, but Pidgin or Tok Pisin, and of course English as well. So the large majority of Papua New Guineans speak at a bare minimum 3 languages. They're just absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah, so for a young child or a villager out there who perhaps has never left the village, you know, this would be a huge thing, because they'd be able to go to one place instead of having to go to Buna or go to another hospital, the province hospital, where they may not even be able to understand the doctors there. You know, to have a familiar face, and I mean, to have someone who knows everyone just from a general practitioner standpoint is so key to helping those individuals' health and keeping up with what they need in terms of whether it be vaccines or whether it be something else in terms of nutrition or other things, especially for the young children who are just growing up. What services, you know, do you think this new facility would provide that, you know, you can't currently provide?
Thanks, Michael. And you're so right talking about the absolutely critical function that this aid post serves and that we can improve to continue serving. It's got to be our most fundamental human right, doesn't it? You know, having access to reliable, affordable, in this case, free primary health care in the location in which we live, if it's not possible to travel out. It's just, you know, it's got to be one of the most important things to humans. We will be able to support Dick Larry to improve the services that are currently delivered. With a permanent facility, we can actually set up a formal birthing suite at Sanananda. And so women can actually come, deliver their babies, stay overnight for a couple of nights if they need close supervision and care. At the moment, in the makeshift aid post, it's impossible for women to do that. So whilst we're still able to encourage supervised births and we send Dick Larry out to the women's home, it's much more desirable for them to be able to come and have that supervised birth in the birthing centre at the aid post. It means that we can provide as well a bit of comfort. You know, we can actually set up some proper beds there. We can actually have a room for inpatient services rather than it just being a shop front where people come and get tested for malaria and get their medication and off they go. It can actually become a space where we provide, you know, that real holistic type of primary health care and comfort to people.
Yeah. I like, you know, even just to backpedal a bit on what you were saying, Michael, about, you know, going to someone familiar and whatnot. I mean, for me, living in the States for 8 years, something would come up for me and I'd be like, you know what, I'm just going to wait until I go back to Australia to get checked up. You know, there is something really true about your local GP that you go, oh, I trust them, I'll go to them. I have since then found a general practitioner here or a primary healthcare. What do you guys call them? Your primary
primary care physician.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
right.
yes, no, absolutely. When you were saying that, Michael, I was like, yeah, I'm guilty of that. Just waiting until I can go to my person who I've known since I was a kid. So yeah, I didn't even think of that point, but it's absolutely true, you know, for those guys there. And with Dick.
Yeah, and look, our focus at KTF, whether it's in health or education or the work in livelihoods and women's project, it's about investing in local people to stay in their local communities with their families and provide these services that are missing and that are so fundamental to our lives, our health, our well-being and our livelihoods. It's the same philosophy we apply to our teachers. We make sure that we are training up teachers from local communities who are committed to going back to their local villages long term and working there for the next 15 years. Because so right, that trust in local people and life in PNG, life in rural PNG, it's tough. You know, we're talking about having to deal with some quite extreme elements from time to time. These communities along the northern coast in Oro province are hit by disasters so much more often now than even just 10 years ago. We are absolutely seeing the impact of climate change across that region. We are responding to earthquakes, flooding, cyclones, at least on an annual basis. that is something that we will continue to do in that Northern Beaches area, as well as supporting health and education projects. But that's therefore tough, you know, to convince outsider professionals to come in and commit to a 10-year term running a local aid post. It's just not going to happen. So we have to invest in local people, and we've been doing the hard yards over the past decade to make sure that we do have this pipeline of local professionals who are supported by their communities. Now's the exciting time to let's professionalise and let's really build up the infrastructure and the resourcing and the support packaging that we can wrap around these wonderful people, because we don't want to lose them.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just when you
Go ahead.
No, yeah, just even when you talk about professionalizing that, the aid posts, you know, surely that's going to help, like, safeguard it against some of these disasters or these things that do come up.
Yes, so important. Yeah.
My question with that is where it's located. It is on the coast, and you have had some disasters. In building the structure that we will be helping with, given the aid posts that you now have, they're in bad shape. They're not full structures. Do you take that into consideration in building as the storms come and the different things that this building? How will this building be different than what they currently have?
Yeah, absolutely. So what they currently have is just a traditional hut type of structure, just made out of local timber, local bamboo, palm fronds, things like that. And they really are susceptible to the elements and they don't withstand them. So the current structures are having to be patched up or replaced every year or every 2 years at the moment. The structure we're putting in is a permanent solution. We work with our partners at P&G Forest Products, who are experts in creating prefabricated buildings that will withstand the elements. And we'll have an engineer who'll go in and will scout out the location, because it is right there on the coast, just to advise on things like, do we need to put it up on stilts, because it is an area that floods quite easily, and that's probably the way that we'll go, just elevate it a little bit to protect it during those times where the flood waters rise.
Yeah, and I can imagine it being on the coast, the salt and the different things with the technology inside needs to be protected as well. Is all the equipment run by solar then in something like that? It is, okay.
Yeah, 100% solar in this region. There's no grid connection out to these Northern Beaches communities. We are simultaneously going to be putting the household solar systems onto the 220 homes in Sanananda, like what you guys are supporting us to do in Garari, and over in Killerton. Killerton is just a stone's throw north from Sanananda. It's one of Sanananda's catchment communities. So whilst we'll be investing in the solar infrastructure for the operations of the fridge and you know, just lights. Gosh, we take lights so for granted.
Yeah.
And they're running aid posts, and mums who are trying to deliver babies in the middle of the night. Babies don't choose to come during daylight hours, and at the moment people are using mobile phone torch in order to assist with nighttime deliveries.
So that's an important point to bring home to our supporters, that they really caught on to Garari and with our ECE and needing light in those communities. It's even more important for the aid posts and the medical community to make sure that we fund and we support that solar campaign. Am I right?
It's absolutely critical. I mean, light is just so powerful and so extraordinary, and we try to apply a light or energy for a purpose philosophy when we choose to invest in this space. So for the operations of an aid post, it's a no-brainer. You need lights, you need fans, you need a power source for a laptop, or at very least an iPad or some sort of tablet for recording purposes, for education purposes, for building your own knowledge, and then for the vaccine fridges. But, you know, we also very much passionately believe just in the power of light and what it does for an average family. And we're talking about communities that have relied on burning toxic kerosene for too long, or making campfires, of which it's often the women who are out collecting firewood, doing that very burdensome role, or having to, pay for expensive fuel for gensets, of which only the wealthy in certain locations have got access to. And we have just seen time after time how amazing the response is for households in these remote and rural locations who go into their home and for the first time flick a switch and on come the 4 lights in their home, and they can charge their phone, which everyone's got a phone these days. But yeah, household systems, they really, really do change lives.
What about clean water as well? Obviously, you need clean water in these areas, and especially when it's medical services. So that would be something that needs to be addressed as well. And
absolutely, we'll be putting. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important with the health services, just for birthing, for cleaning wounds, for rehydrating people. It's got to be drinkable. It's got to be reliable. So we'll be putting a big tank onto the side of the aid post so that it can collect water. But Sanananda, it keeps getting slammed by these disasters. So it's something that we need to look at a bit more holistically in the community. We have put disaster tanks in after some of these cyclones and flooding and earthquake events. This is a community that has been impacted. Their water bore wells have been cracked wide open by an earthquake last year. And just having access to clean drinking water was really problematic. We look at filtration systems as well. So collecting the rainwater for a whole range of purposes, but then making sure it's put through a filter in order for it to be safe for drinking is really important too. So we've been working with a wonderful organisation in Australia whose mission is to design a mechanism for basically anybody to be in a position to do eye testing, and testing mainly for refractive error, which is something that we can address in a really cost-effective way through minimal reliance on technology. So with this organisation, we have invested in a couple of prototypes of these new testing wheels, and we've trialled them in a few locations now. We're actually at a point where we're starting to look at other technology that has been produced by some other organisations. There's apparently a new little contraption that slots really easily onto a smartphone, and with an app that's been designed, enables anybody to do a basic test for refractive error. What we're also trying to do is to make sure that if we do test somebody's eyesight and we determine what prescription lens is required in order to fix that refractive error, that we've got a way to assemble a pair of glasses that's tailored to that person's needs on the spot. So we're still in pilot phase with this project, but we're hoping to have some traction over the course of the rest of this year. And absolutely, our health facilities that we currently support the operations of will become little hubs in these remote areas for people to be able to come and get their eyes tested.
It's fantastic. Yeah, the same thing.
Same. Okay, so my last question, I guess, for Aid Post, when there is an emergency, I just kind of would like to also hit on if surgery is needed or something is not, how are they transporting patients? I'm assuming they're not doing surgery right there in the Aid Post, or are they? And no. How is that patient transported, and do they have transportation for those patients, or is that something needed?
That is a major gap There is no readily accessible transportation available at the moment. There is a new ambulance that's based over at Boona, but we are waiting for the government and the organisation that funded that ambulance just to sort out who was responsible for the ongoing running costs of that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And we are gently pushing and prodding to try and get some action on that. And once that ambulance is back on the road, it could possibly make its way over to Sanananda. But whilst the villages are, you know, as far as the crow flies, not that far from each other, it takes a 2-hour walk along the coast to get from Sanananda to Boona. In order to drive there, you've got to go all the way around and zigzag your way through the palm oil plantations and down the bumpy roads, which are always flooded, to then get back into Sanananda. So putting on an ambulance service for that Sanananda community and this immediate catchment of Killerton and some of the other smaller villages would be an amazing investment to make in that region.
I was just looking for those numbers that Mike pulled on the position of women, you know, with the gender inequality index.
Yeah, PNG is second from the bottom worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah. But what is heartening is you see women, we're given the opportunity, you know, with our archer leaders and with women being involved in the women's projects and things like that, when they're given the opportunity, you know, it is so true. Women change the world, you know.
Yeah.
And it's about, you know, and that's a ground up thing, you know.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
And in that health space, you know, Dick Larry is extraordinary, and we're glad we've got him for Sanananda. But the next goal for Sanananda, this is where investing in professionalising the entity and the structure will come into it. We need a female in there.
Right.
If we want all women in that community delivering their babies in that aid post, we need to have a female midwife. Not all of them will come to Dick Larry. Some will. Some won't be allowed to by their husbands. We absolutely need a female there. And it's a bit of a case of build it and they will come. You know, you build a beautiful working environment and you provide them the resourcing and the support that is currently not available in the other aid posts, then we will attract, workers, or we will take the long strategy in Sanananda and we will find those women who finish grade 12 and who want to go and train as a health worker, and we'll send them off for their 2.5 years training and they'll commit to coming back to Sanananda.
It's so crazy that women are so devalued, given, I mean, just look at this call right now. No offense to the men on the call, but I mean, you have 3 really involved women that really serve. I mean, you can see in service, women they're important.
Yeah.
Women
Service.
Yeah, that's like absolute understatement. I think LHL is a testament to that too, you know. Yeah, there's just me and Michael, just the outliers. And, you know, I think it's a great thing. But, you know, with also beginning that change, and maybe it is the next generation, but us being able to keep young girls in class and at school is so integral to turn that tide, to create, at least to begin that equilibrium, and start that conversation. So it's great to be part of that and planting those seeds, as you said.
Yeah, and we're in a tough point in this journey with COVID-19. You know, the global predictions are that this pandemic have set us back 20 years in the fight against global poverty, and we can absolutely see that in Papua New Guinea. A report just came out this morning saying that 87% of kids were thrown out of school last year and were given no access to e-learning opportunities in order for continuity of schooling. Who's going to be most affected out of that 87%? The girls, the 50% of the 87%, because times are ticking for the girls. You know, they will start to grow up and get older. They're very useful in helping their mums in the garden, in helping to look after the little siblings, in being married off and being exchanged for bride price. So, you know, trying to get girls who've been out of school for any period of time back into that formal education system is a major challenge.
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't even think about that. That's amazing. And I mean, it blows my mind. So,
Yeah, and especially when you think about it in terms of, like for, I guess, here in the States, it's like the kids are a year behind, but in PNG, there's those other social pressures of like you're coming of age and you should be moving on to this, a year is so vastly different in two different places,
Right, exactly. Girls grow up quickly in PNG, especially in rural PNG. And there are those
And you
pressures.
also factor in, oh, sorry, Jen, you factor in the fact that they start schooling later, generally, don't they, a lot of the time?
Yeah, exactly. So, rather than starting school at 5 or 6, it's not unusual to have both girls and boys starting school at 8 or 9. And so by the time they're at that critical, we call them these critical drop-off points, and they tend to be at grade 8, at grade 10, and you lose big chunks of the schooling population because there's not enough positions in the next grade up, or because standards so low and students don't pass exams. And so, girls, when they're at that grade 8 or grade 10 level, they might be 16 years of age, and families might decide that, well, actually schooling is not the best use of our girls and we're going to keep them home.
That's horrifying.
It's terrifying, but education is the key.
Yeah.
And we only educate communities if they are healthy and we look after their well-being as well. So got to start somewhere and keep chipping away. The partnership with LHL and KTF is it's one of a kind. It's so rare. I think I said this to you when I was in Kokoda and we did the live cross with Connie and Wari. But the fact that we have you in kindred spirits, so willing to look at these development challenges in the lens that they need to be looked at in order for us to make progress. And that is that nothing happens in isolation of each other. Nothing happens in a silo. If you're just investing in one space, in one location, it's not going to shift the dial that's needed at that whole of community level. And we have to look at these challenges holistically because they are really, really complex. There are so many layers to them. And it's so rare for us to find a partner that understands that and that is passionate and enthused by responding to those challenges. Having a partner like you walking alongside us in this problem-solving journey. We call ourselves full-time problem solvers. We should put that on our business cards. Every day we're thinking, what else can we do? How can we do it differently? Who do we need to bring into the mix here in order to make things change? I mean, the practical things that you guys have already enabled us to do on investing in the schools, we're very excited to have some major progress coming on the Garari Elementary School next week. The building is all done. The prefab work is all done. It's sitting in lay. We've got one of our project officers going in on Saturday just to do the inspection before they pop it on the barge and it comes across to Oro Bay. And our building team are all ready and raring to go in Garari. That will be followed very shortly by the Coco Elementary School and Early Childhood Classroom, and they are just chomping at the bit to get that going. The solar work in Garari, we've already installed these systems across a number of the houses. The next batch have arrived in Popondetta. They're jumping on vehicles, I think today, to come down to Garari, and our guys are there, then going to be in there getting them installed onto the homes, and all your support of the people power that goes alongside infrastructure. I mean, that's just absolutely critical. There's no point building something if there's not a long-term plan to staff it and to resource it and to wrap a cuddle of love and support around it. So it's just been absolutely fabulous working with you guys.
It's awesome.
It feels so like charity and, doing this work in the virtual world seems so abstract. So to be able to just chat with you guys about it as well, and you guys are closer to that hands-on experience, I think really inspires us and reinvigorates us. you know, I can't wait for the day where we all get to meet up and actually get involved and get over there and have boots on the ground. But it's always really rejuvenating to hear from you guys, especially in this virtual world where it feels like we are in a bit of a vacuum, and, you know, we get to chat here and there, and we're, you know, raising funds. But, you know, it's good to at least connect on this level, and then when everything is okay and safe to do so, to take it to the next level of our friendship.
It's very real. It's very tangible. I was just there the other month. We'll keep sending more pickies and videos through to you.
Well, we'd like to thank you so much. Like, honestly, we love your partnership. I can't tell you what KTF has brought, not only to us as an organization, to me and to every individual involved. You guys have brought more joy to us, and it's a pleasure to serve. And you don't even know all of our team, but you've changed the life of so many, and you don't even know, you haven't met them. And so for that, I am so grateful. Jen, I think I look at you and I think, wow, as the founder of this organization, at the end of the day, what your life stands for is amazing. And I hope you know that, because you have just been a force in not only my life, but in the life of LHL. And we are so grateful for you. We really are. And Anita, we love you. You know that.
I was going to say, I feel the same way about Jen. That's how I ended up here, because, you know, it's the astonishing things that the organisation manages to pull together, but it's only because of Jen's guidance and leadership. But we couldn't do it without the supporters that we have behind us, because we're, you know, the only thing we're constrained with, you know, we've got some logistical challenges, but as Jen has said, you know, anything is insurmountable, or nothing is insurmountable, everything is surmountable. But when it comes down to it, the one thing that limits what we can do is being able to fund all of the things, you know, the incredible list of needs that are for this beautiful country that we work in. We have the privilege to work along these beautiful people. And you and your amazing supporters are enabling us to do that, and we just couldn't be more thankful.
Well, you guys have lit the flame, and now it's taken off, and so thank you so much.
Thank you. Likewise, right back at you.
Yeah, it's just been absolute pleasure, and just I just got to echo what Michele said. There's so many people on this team who, you know, have found a purpose and have, you know, come together, who never would have come together before, and have, you know, found friends and all that stuff, just so that, you know, they can make just a little bit of difference. It's just incredible.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Michael. It's a big bit of difference, not a little bit.
Thanks so much, guys.
Well, thanks, guys.
We'll see you soon.
Bye, Anita. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.